more so than anybody else, Liz Cheney has really staked out a position. She has made herself the face of the Republican opposition to former President Trump, voting to impeach him, being the vice chairperson of the January 6th committee, and continuing to call the former president a threat to democracy. She made news on two fronts. One is that she did say that, yes, there should be an investigation for war crimes against Russia and that the world should be watching it. Up to this point, the White House has not forcefully and explicitly said that they see war crimes committed and thrown their support behind an investigation. He has been really pushing and asking for more aid, for other things, those MiG fighter jets and a no-fly zone. You know that's what he's going to be asking for. Do you think he'll be able to move Congress and the White House on some of those things?
Well, Joe, I think what's going on right now.
You're certainly feeling it in the building today. A lot of people who were here last year, it's surreal for them to come back and be in the building, 1 year later. Specifically, I'm thinking about a lot of the Capitol police officers who quite literally were overwhelmed by that mob. We've all seen the images now, hand-to-hand combat with them. That carries some trauma. And look, if you read the affidavit that the Justice Department put out, it almost reads like a spy novel. Unfortunately and disturbingly, it is all too real. And what's more remarkable, this wasn't some rogue lone actor. The Justice Department says that this man was plotting to kill Americans here in the U.S. with the blessing of elements of the Iranian government.
Why would you want to do it part way?
But, Mr. Leader, on 9/11, before that, after that, we've had terrorist attacks. We were just focusing this investigation on 9/11. It was a pivotal point in the nation's history. Wouldn't you do that now for January 6th?
Well, this whole point...
Do you think that in 2024, Donald Trump should be the nominee on the Republican side?
Well, that's a long way away. You don't even know if the president said he'll run again.
Would you support him if he did?
If the president is the nominee, I'll support it.
Liz Cheney not only outright defied her party leader, she not only accepted Speaker Pelosi's invitation to be on that committee and serve on it, but almost immediately she put out a statement. We can put some of it on the screen here, where she says she is proud to be on this committee, to be investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. I know you know what happens sometimes to his very vocal critics, not just in Russia, but outside of Russia as well. Sorry for the bluntness of this question, but do you fear that maybe you are a target of Vladimir Putin?
Could you explain me why I should be silent?
After Sandy Hook, nothing legislatively changed, so we thought, is this moment going to be different? And what he told us was he realizes probably nothing major. Democrats would like an assault weapons ban. He said something like that he does not think can get done realistically in this Senate. But he said he thinks some Republicans would be willing to work with him. There's no gray area. This Mississippi law does directly violate Roe versus Wade and a precedent set, banning abortions at 15 weeks. So if this 6-3 conservative majority on the court allows this law to continue and it rules in favor, it totally opens the door for other states to make stricter abortion laws. That's what this pro-life crowd certainly wants to see. They're projecting from the White House a sense that the president has a deal that would unite all 50 Democratic senators, including those holdouts Manchin and Sinema that you talked about. But he's going to be addressing Democrats today on the other side of the Capitol. He's going to be speaking to House Democrats, where there is still a large group of these progressives who feel, frankly, like a lot of their biggest agenda items have been left out. All of these brought forth by former employees of the Washington Commanders. Clearly, Congress doesn't think the NFL is taking their role investigating this seriously, so they're asking the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, and the team's owner to come testify. In communities where there has not been that investment, parts of Oakland, where you are from, and parts of Detroit, where I'm from, yes or no, do you think fewer officers would make those communities more safe?
Here's what I know to be a fact.
Senator, I think some of the objections to the way that you did the questioning is why not bring this up during her circuit court nomination?
Well, this is the Supreme Court of the United States.
70 to 80% of judges do sort of the same sentencing guidelines where they will typically go under what the guideline is. Does that make her mainstream if she's along with 70 to 80% of the other judges? I heard President Barack Obama say that the thing he remembered most about his inaugurations was the immediate feeling going outside to the podium, seeing the near million people in the crowd. Well, Joe Biden is not going to get that opportunity. We have socially distanced seats here. This has already been in the hands of the jury since Friday. They deliberated about 4 hours then. They've already begun deliberating again today on that basic question that's at the heart of this case, Adrian, that you mentioned already. Did Michael Sussman mislead the FBI? They did put a bit of a spin on it, saying that the U.S. is poised more so than any other country to rebound and to grow stronger from this inflation. They're asking everybody to be patient. But in the meantime, that doesn't do anything for people who are really struggling right now and who are making sacrifices. And that's certainly what we're seeing now in our NewsNation polling. The various pay-fors that you've negotiated, if you think that's going to be satisfying that group.
I think the strength of our vote tonight showed that we have support from both parties.
Now, right now, the White House says that would be too much of an escalation, so they're not going to go the route of a no-fly zone. What they are doing is continuing to filter in weapons into Ukraine through countries like Poland and Romania. Last week, the U.S. and NATO allies did more than 17,000 weapons, including those anti-tank missiles. Yesterday, I talked to a whole lot of senators, and I heard from many of them that this moment just feels different. Whether it's the nature of this shooting, the really horrific stories and images that we're getting out of Texas, something about this struck a different emotional chord, and that may be the catalyst to seeing some real action here. Let's remember that at the beginning of this conflict in Ukraine, one of the long-term strategic goals that Vladimir Putin had was to weaken NATO, to undermine it. Well, look where we are right now. I think he achieved the exact opposite of that. NATO is potentially about to grow, and the countries that are in NATO right now seem to be more committed, not less committed than they were even before this conflict started. We still got a long way to go. What the president is doing today is he's going to bring heads of the formula industry together with members of his own administration who may be in a position to do something about it and address the formula shortage. So we're talking about the Surgeon General,